It'll all be predicated upon how well Terence can take his punch.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is I see a hungry Crawford, a Crawford that has been looking for the opportunity for a long time, finally getting the opportunity, and really ready to grab.
More like a 60-40 only because of the weight difference, but you can't take Crawford's skill away. You know, you have to give him credit for skill. He's an amazing fighter.
Who wins that fight?
50-50, I say it's a 50-50. But I think Canelo got it.
Yeah, we working. On a holiday where I blow a lot. Get it in. Let's get it. Under the grace, do what we gotta do. Let's get it, baby. September 13th. Here we come.
There is a storm brewing in the world of boxing, and it wears the names Canelo Alvarez and Terence "Bud" Crawford, two generational warriors, two resumes that read like a Hall of Fame ledger. And now, the most iconic names in boxing history are stepping forward to weigh in on the most dangerous question in the sport today: who takes the crown if Canelo and Crawford go to war? This is not your typical pound-for-pound conversation. This is a battle of legacy, of grit, of eras colliding. From Roy Jones Jr. to David Benavidez to Tiara Brown and Edgar Berlanga, the icons are sounding off. And you're about to hear every brutally honest word of it. You do not want to miss what Roy said about Canelo's hunger, or how Benavidez quietly exposed the weight dilemma hiding beneath Crawford's genius. Every single opinion is drenched in years of battle-tested wisdom. This is not just another debate, this is war. So make sure you like the video right now, subscribe to Boxy Hub, and hit that bell, because this is the channel where real boxing minds speak loud and unfiltered. Let's step into the heat and find out who the legends are betting on, and more importantly, why this fight might not end well for either man. Roy Jones Jr. kicks things off with a razor-sharp take that cuts straight to the core of what separates the elite from the immortals. According to Roy, the entire fight hinges on one brutal truth. Can Crawford take Canelo's punch? It is not about flashy records or titles. It is about standing in the fire when it matters most. Roy sees something in Crawford that others miss. A hunger that does not blink. A man who has been clawing at the walls of greatness for years, biding his time, waiting for that one shot to silence every critic once and for all. Roy doesn't just say Crawford is ready. He paints him as obsessed, as someone who has been building himself brick by brick for this moment. This is not a boxer chasing glory. This is a man chasing destiny. And when someone with that mindset finally gets their shot, the result is rarely boring and never safe. Crawford is not walking into this for a paycheck. He is walking into this like a man who has already lived the pain of being overlooked and now has the power to rewrite history. That kind of psychological fuel, that can turn the most technical matchup into a war of will. Roy is warning us that if Crawford can take the heat, Canelo might be staring down a fighter he cannot mentally break. And in boxing, mindset often outweighs muscle. This quote does not flatter Crawford. It crowns him with danger.
It'll all be predicated upon how well Terence can take his punch.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is I see a hungry Crawford, a Crawford that has been looking for the opportunity for a long time, finally getting the opportunity, and really ready to grab.
Roy Jones Jr. is not done. He shifts the spotlight to Canelo Alvarez and gives us a sobering reminder of what happens to warriors who have tasted too much glory. Roy says flat out that Canelo is not hungry anymore. Let that sink in. We are not talking about skill or pedigree here. We are talking about the fire in a man's chest when he walks into the ring. Roy respects that Canelo still puts on big fights, that he gives the fans what they want, but he also sees the warning signs. Canelo is a showman now. He is someone who picks the stage, sets the lights, and knows how to entertain. But can he still survive in a kill or be killed war? Roy doubts it. He says it would take Canelo doing everything exactly right to win. And then he adds the most chilling part. He does not think Canelo will do the right thing. That is not a prediction. That is a gut punch from someone who knows what it takes to stay sharp in a game that never forgives comfort. Canelo might still be elite, but if his preparation is not perfect, if his hunger does not rise to Crawford's obsession, then he might be walking into an ambush with a smile on his face. Roy just told us that Crawford is hunting legacy, while Canelo is managing his brand. In a fight like this, that contrast could be fatal.
And with Canelo, I see a guy who not necessarily hungry, but loves to entertain, loves to give us the big fights. Always tries to give the big fights. He finds a way to give us big fights. Not going to always win them, but he always tries to give them to us. So he'll be a guy that, if he shows up and does the exact right thing, he can win the fight. If he don't do the right thing,
Roy Jones Jr. doubles down on the one factor everyone keeps bringing up: weight. And he crushes the myth in a single breath. According to Roy, when you are as skilled as Terence Crawford, weight doesn't matter. That is not casual praise. That is boxing royalty telling the world that Crawford's ability transcends physical limits. Roy knows what it means to move through weight classes. He did it himself. And now he is saying Crawford is cut from the same cloth. This is not just about speed or power. This is about angles, control, IQ, and the art of breaking a man down before he even knows he is being dismantled. Roy is painting Crawford as a fighter who controls time and space inside the ring. A man who can nullify size with rhythm, who can neutralize muscle with movement. That kind of fighter is terrifying because there are no physical advantages that give you a guaranteed edge. Crawford is not going into this as a small man fighting uphill. He is walking in as a master of the sport, and Roy is screaming it from the mountaintops. This is not about weight, it is about levels. Crawford is already on the highest floor.
When you know how to box, when you're as skillful as Terence Crawford is, weight don't really matter much.
Crawford himself adds fuel to this fire with a short but explosive statement. No complaints, no hype, just grit. He lets the world know he is grinding on a holiday, getting in the work while others are celebrating. That is not just discipline. That is war readiness. Crawford is showing the world that he does not take moments like this for granted. He is moving like a man with something to prove and nothing to fear. This is not media talk. This is sweat, blood, and fire in the belly. Crawford knows exactly what is coming on September 13th, and he is embracing it like a warrior charging into battle. The way he speaks, the way he trains, it all screams of a man who has already visualized every round, every exchange, every moment of adversity. He is not training for a paycheck. He is preparing for immortality. This is the kind of mindset that crushes excuses. Crawford is sharpening every blade in his arsenal, and when that bell rings, he will not be testing the waters. He will be storming the gates. Fighters like this don't show up to compete. They show up to conquer. That is what makes this fight so dangerous.
We're working. We're working. On a holiday where I blow a lot. Get it in. Let's get it. One of the greats, do what we gotta do. Let's get it, baby. September 13th. Here we come.
David Benavidez enters the conversation with a grounded but deeply analytical take that reveals the complexity of this matchup. He says straight up that this is a good fight, not a mismatch, not hype, a real competitive fight. And then he delivers the math. The weight difference, he says, gives Canelo a slight edge. He calls it a 60-40 fight. But Benavidez does not stop there. He immediately pivots to Crawford's skill set and refuses to downplay it. In his eyes, you cannot ignore what Crawford brings to the table. Benavidez calls him an amazing fighter, and when that kind of praise comes from someone who lives in the trenches of the sport, it carries real weight. What Benavidez is telling us is that this is not a fight where strength will automatically win. It is not a situation where size trumps all. Crawford's skills demand respect, and Benavidez gives him that fully. The 60-40 margin is not about weakness, it is about physics, but even physics can be broken by brilliance. Benavidez is basically saying, Crawford has enough genius to make those odds lie. That is terrifying. When even the bigger man's peers are worried about the smaller man's skill, you know this is no ordinary challenge. Benavidez just confirmed what many fear. Crawford has the tools to steal this.
More like a 60-40 only because of the weight difference, but you can't take Crawford's skill away, you know, you have to give him credit for skill. He's an amazing fighter.
Edgar Berlanga delivers a verdict that comes wrapped in balance, but beneath the surface, there's a subtle lean that reveals the stakes of this matchup. He calls it a 50-50 fight, which on the surface sounds neutral, but then he immediately begins building the case for why he still picks Canelo. Berlanga isn't blind to Crawford's greatness. In fact, he acknowledges it directly. He praises both as legends and brings up the key fact that Terence is undisputed, a title that holds real weight in a sport where politics often block greatness. But Berlanga also throws his support behind Canelo's history of surviving wars with bigger men. He highlights Canelo's size, his strength, and his resume against larger opponents. To Berlanga, Canelo has been in the fire before and walked out smiling. That kind of experience against naturally bigger warriors makes him hard to bet against. And yet, even as he makes this argument, Berlanga never dismisses Crawford. That hesitation speaks volumes. It means that even those backing Canelo know they're flirting with danger. Berlanga's analysis reveals the truth many are scared to admit. This fight isn't about favorites, it's about intangibles. If a man like Berlanga, with inside access to both fighters' mindsets and skills, can only lean slightly toward Canelo, that means no one should feel safe making assumptions. This is high-level chess with real-world consequences.
Who wins that fight? 50-50. I say it's a 50-50. But I think Canelo got it.
David Benavidez returns to the conversation with another powerful statement, and this time he delivers something that fans should take as a serious warning. He doesn't say Crawford will win. He doesn't say Canelo will lose. What he does is draw attention to how tight the margins are and how dangerous Crawford really is. He says clearly that if anyone can beat Canelo, it's Crawford. That's a statement soaked in respect and fear. Benavidez highlights Crawford's IQ, not just his power, not just his speed, but his mental dominance. That's what makes this different. Crawford isn't just a skilled fighter. He's a thinker, a reader of patterns, a disruptor of rhythm. He's a surgeon in a sport full of brawlers. Benavidez even notes that Crawford is strong, something that many critics try to downplay when comparing him to Canelo. But then Benavidez gives us the real gut punch. He talks about the weight again, saying it's a lot. That's not just a concern, that's a crack in the foundation. Benavidez is laying out the reality that if Crawford loses, it may not be because of skill, but physics. Yet he ends by saying he wouldn't be surprised either way. That level of unpredictability only exists in true super fights. Crawford has forced Benavidez, one of the most dangerous men in the division, to admit that anything is possible when skill reaches a certain level. And in this case, that possibility leans toward chaos.
I think if anybody has a chance to beat Canelo, I think it's Terence Crawford. His IQ is on another level. He's a great fighter and he's strong. It's just that it's a lot of weight. I wouldn't be surprised if Terence Crawford wins. Wouldn't be surprised if he loses.
Tiara Brown steps into this heavyweight conversation with a dose of passion and vulnerability that cuts through the usual analyst jargon. She says she's rooting for Crawford, not just because of what he does in the ring, but because of what he represents outside of it. And yet, she admits something that many fans echo in silence. She has been a Canelo fan her entire life. She loves his fighting style, his grit, and what he has accomplished. But when it comes to this fight, her heart belongs to Crawford. Why? Because she sees herself in him. She sees a struggle that mirrors her own, a journey through doubt, through pain, through adversity. And when you see that in a fighter, you stop cheering for wins and start cheering for redemption. Tiara is not picking based on weight or strategy. She's picking based on heart. And that matters more than people think. Because boxing, at its core, is not a numbers game. It's a soul game. Crawford has people rooting for him who see in him more than a champion. They see a symbol, a fighter who has carried burdens that never made the headlines and who still shows up smiling and swinging. Tiara's words are emotional, but they're also strategic in their own way. She's reminding us that Crawford's battle is bigger than belts. It's personal. And when a fighter's mission transcends the ring, that's when legends are born.
I'm rooting for Crawford, of course. I love Canelo. I've been a Canelo fan all my life, but I've also been a Crawford fan all my life, and I just like his struggle.
Tiara Brown keeps her foot on the gas in her next statement. And this time, she doesn't just support Crawford, she elevates him. She points out that both fighters come from pain and struggle, but then she makes a subtle declaration that changes everything. She says Canelo already proved himself. He already went through the fire. He already built his name, his empire, his legacy. And now, according to Tiara, it's Crawford's turn. That is a massive statement. She is not just picking a winner. She is declaring a shift in the sport's axis. She is saying Canelo is the past and Crawford is the future. That's not just emotional support. That's prophecy. She sees Crawford as the one carrying the torch now, the fighter who isn't just trying to win a fight, but trying to take the throne. Tiara also speaks on his character outside the ring, the humility, the consistency, the leadership. She's laying down the idea that Crawford is not just a skilled fighter, but a man of purpose. And that kind of fighter is extremely dangerous, because he's not just fighting for himself. He's fighting for a cause, for a culture, for an entire generation. If Tiara's read is correct, then Canelo isn't just fighting an opponent. He's fighting a movement. And no matter how strong you are physically, movements don't go down easy.
Both men come from struggle and pain. I think that Canelo already did that. Went up in weight, proved he's great, and I think that it's Crawford's turn. That's what he's doing. Yeah. And I just love him in and outside of the ring.
Tiara Brown seals her case for Crawford with a deeply human observation that very few commentators ever touch. She doesn't talk about his southpaw stance or his counter-punching ability. She talks about his role as a father, his presence in his children's lives, his involvement in youth wrestling, his visibility as a positive role model. That might sound unrelated to the ring, but in reality, it's the foundation of greatness. Fighters who carry themselves with discipline, accountability, and purpose outside the ropes bring a different energy inside them. Tiara is pointing to something crucial. Crawford isn't consumed by the fame. He's grounded. He's aware of what he represents, and he's using that awareness to fuel his mission. When someone is connected to a higher cause, when they fight not just for victory but for values, they become nearly impossible to break. Crawford isn't coming into this fight with pressure. He's coming in with clarity. He knows who he is. He knows what he's about. And when a fighter steps into the ring with that kind of identity, it's a nightmare for even the most seasoned veteran. Tiara just reminded everyone that Crawford's story is about more than knockouts. It's about legacy, both inside and outside the ring. And that kind of legacy fights harder, longer, and smarter than anyone expects.
He's a positive role model, a positive influence to the youth. I watch him on his social media. He's always going to his kids' wrestling matches, stuff like that, being a positive role model for the youth, and I have to root for him.
This is not going to end well. Not for Canelo, not for Crawford, not for anyone who steps in thinking this is just another super fight. What we're staring at is the perfect storm. Canelo carries size, power, and a legacy built on silencing giants. Crawford brings precision, obsession, and a cause bigger than the sport. The legends have spoken, and none of them agree. Roy Jones Jr. sees a fight hanging on a thread of mindset. Benavidez smells blood on both sides. Berlanga edges Canelo, but only barely. And Tiara Brown? She believes Crawford's time has come. But what none of them can say with certainty is who survives this clash whole. This fight has all the makings of a career-altering war, not just for the loser, but possibly for the winner too. It might be epic, it might be controversial, but make no mistake, it will be brutal. And when the final bell sounds, one thing will be certain. This fight, Canelo versus Crawford, will not end well. For either. Like the video right now if you felt that heat. Subscribe to Boxy Hub for more raw takes from the boxing legends who lived it. Because over here, we don't play it safe. We speak the fight as it is.